as you will have seen, what we're doing is to do with movement and improvisation today. So that is not me performing to you, that is all of us doing it together. So I hope you're ready for that. So you don't, I have one room which isn't very large, so you don't need a lot of space. And I've been in these very strange times going on since February. I've been trying to work out a way in which one can do movement and improvisation, which is what I normally teach with a bunch of people in a big hall. It's everybody will feel a little like, oh, I'm not quite sure, but it's also a lot of fun. We can have a lot of fun. So I just wanted to draw attention to what we can do. You know, normally, any of you do maybe yoga, Pilates, or dance, or 5 rhythms, or anything like that. What you will be used to is being in a space with people, maybe with touch, maybe definitely with close eye contact with one person or a whole bunch of people, and feeling the energy in the space. Now, some of that works, some of that doesn't work so well. But what still does work, I think, is that we can be in our bodies, that we can have a great sense of our own bodies. And I'm going to do an exercise in a minute just to work us into that. And we can still be very aware of qualities. Like, it might not be quality of touch, you know, but if you for example in a group, you have there's this kind of touch, or there's this kind of touch, you know, or there's this kind of touch. There's all qualities of physical interaction one could have if one were in a room. Now we can do that in terms of attentiveness, how we are attentive to ourselves or each other. Yeah? We can be more or less forceful with our attention, and we can be more explorative with our attention of ourselves, of objects, or of contact with each other. And the same with the voice. So we'll be able to transfer some of what we would do in movement into our into this rather unusual setup. So also what we can do is we'll be working with movement and space. So there always is space. I know a lot of us are in a restricted place just now, especially and even more in Britain than here in Germany. There is a sense of like we have to squeeze ourselves into a small space, maybe especially those of us who don't live in the countryside but are restricted to a room or a house. And what I hope we will do is that we experience space as always available. Yeah, if there's a space this size, this is space. You know, this is space. This is, you can't see me. This is space. So yes, sometimes it's larger, sometimes it's smaller, but we're always present in space. So that is something I'd like to look at today. So instead of talking at you a lot more, what I'd like to do is to do an exercise for which I'm gonna, of course, not knowing many of you much at all, I don't know anything about your physical abilities. So if I say we're going to stand up for a while, could be that some of you cannot stand or cannot stand for long, then please just feel free to adjust what I say. Yeah, so if you're better off sitting or lying down or whatever it is, you just do that. But for those of us who can, I would like to ask you to stand up. So the main thing is that you're standing in a place which is comfortable. I'm going to mainly be talking you through something. Yeah. So it's not super important that you're visible on the screen. So if you feel a bit self-conscious or whatever, just get out of the picture, or just make sure you're feeling comfortable wherever you are. Yeah? And I'm going to also just not face the camera but face to the side. So I'd like you to just stand in a very relaxed way, not in any particular way. Let your arms hang down by your side and feel your breath. Your eyes could be open or closed. If they're open, we'll be more engaged in the actual, or more present to the actual space we're in. If you feel the need to be more internal or feel more inside, you could start off with your eyes closed. And what you'll notice is that even though we're standing quite still and relaxed, that there is movement there. There always is movement when we're alive. So for example, there's a breath, and we can sense the movement that is happening through the breath, of arising and falling, wherever you feel it. There's also maybe a little rebalancing taking place all the time, so our weight is shifting maybe from side to side or front to back. And again, that's something we can pay attention to, but it's not something we actively do. It just happens by itself. Or we can just notice that it happens and feel the regularity or irregularity of it. And then also our eyelids are opening and shutting. They know when that's needed to be done. We don't need to think about it. There might be other involuntary movement in the face or the hands, the mouth. And we can just feel into that. Feel into this sense of this is happening even though I am not doing any of it. I'm not needed for any of it. No doer is needed. In a very relaxed way, what I'd like to invite you to do is add a little bit of doing to this. So it's mainly just still listening in, but maybe the shifting we can, or whatever it is, any movement that is already happening, we can put a little bit of attention or a little bit of activity into it. I'm talking like 3%, not like a big, not making it a big action, but just a touch of staying, maybe when we balance forward, just holding that a little before we shift back. So how much, what is needed, or what happens if we start becoming active? What's different about actively doing something than just listening to what is happening already? So you can play with that if you like. You can make it bigger and smaller, almost like a dimmer switch. You can play up the activity. Or stay more with listening. So the doer gets to do something. We normally rely very much on being able to do things, all day long. We think of things and then do them. We make cups of tea, we walk up the stairs. And now we're in a way a little bit of witnessing the birth of this person who is busy. And feeling into before they arise. And so what I'd like you to do now, as part of this, is to move through the room. Just turn maybe so you see what is around you. See maybe outside, or maybe pictures on the wall. Maybe things on the floor or the ceiling. And again, just in a receptive way, just notice how there are these things and they're part of your life. And some of them might call to you with a memory or a function. call to you with a sense, oh, I must tidy that up, or an activity, that's another activity that's required. So there are relationships all around you. With practical objects, with beautiful objects, with corners of your room, with things you might even have forgotten. So just explore maybe all levels in your room, and if something calls to you, you could go nearer and very carefully, if you want, if it calls to you, you could feel it. You could put your hand on it in a very, in a way as if this is new to you. Feel its softness or hardness. So that's what I was saying earlier, one can hold onto things, one can grip them and take them, or one can also maybe just meet them with the back of the hand or the fingertip and let them communicate something about themselves to you. The temperature, the sharp edges, the smoothness, its weight. Just allow yourself to discover, even though you think you know. We all think we know our place or our objects. So this can be quite playful. It's not a very serious exercise. Very nice. I see some of you discovering in a lovely way. And just to shift a little, whatever object you're having fun with just now, if you just let that go for now, and shift instead with very careful fingers to your own face. And you can close or open your eyes for that. And again, just there is temperature, different temperatures in different places. There's hardness and softness. Smoothness. Different structure. And it could even be that something surprises you. And just let that go, even though it looks very lovely. You have to make a date with yourself to continue later. And let's just come back together. So I'd like you to suggest that just for a few minutes, maybe about just under about 10 minutes, we'll just sit in meditation, taking this very gentle sense we have for ourselves into the meditation. So whatever we encounter in the meditation, we can encounter with this real delicacy of feeling it, whether it's a thought or an insecurity or a nice feeling or a discomfort. Just feeling it very gently, feeling the structure, feeling the question mark in our fingertips. Oh, what is that? What is it like? Rather than taking hold of it and saying it's this, it's that. Do you get a sense of what I mean? It's a bit hard to know. Does this make sense to a few people in the room? Great. Okay, so just I'll let us know when we come back together. I haven't got a bell, I'm afraid, so it's my voice that will call you back. Sit with your eyes open or closed as you wish in this. Okay. If we could briefly just come back together here. For me, there's two aspects which are really important in this. One is that to notice before we do, yeah, which is something we just lose so quickly. You know, we go like, oh, I've got to do this, you know, and we grab hold of it and do whatever it is. You know, we make the tea, we do the washing up, we go for a walk, you know, and it's in my experience that is something we can easily or quick, if we don't watch it, we can easily take that into meditation, you know. So now I'm going to do the metta bhavana, you know, I'm doing mindfulness, you know, and I'm doing this Buddhism thing, you know, and it's just, it's so in us, it's so practiced that it almost takes us to, we have to sort of shift ourselves out of it. So that's what I was hoping to do a little bit. And even if we talk about mindfulness or metta, personally I find it's really helpful to get a felt sense of that, rather than, oh yeah, metta, well, I'm meant to be nice to myself or other people or whatever it is, you know, and come from an idea. Well, what is so uppermost often is a sort of functional way of relating, you know, even to myself. You know, I expect myself to be a certain way in the meditation, or I expect myself to relate a certain way to other people before I've even noticed who I am just now, you know, and who this other person is. Just, I'm not suggesting you should go and touch everybody's face to relate to them, but to have a sense, oh, look at them, who are you today? What do you look like today? You know, what do I see in your eyes? Rather than jumping into activity. So this to me is a really important start with, and that's where I think the body can really help us to give us a clear, well, a direct experience of something rather than just an idea of something. And I wanted to do this to have just a sense of this really soft and explorative and playful experience of something. And after the break, we'll have a little break now, after the break, what we'll do is we'll take this sense to situations which are more difficult. You know, after all, I talked about, the title is about being alive in the space of dis-ease. And I just want to sort of carry, from this basis, carry this on into something which is not as soft and comfortable or as huggable as my lovely soft jumper here. Yeah. Yeah, I just want to give you a few sort of tasters and things of things I would spend a bit longer on normally. So we're just going to move on rather quickly. And just to draw your attention back to the thing, you know, right at the beginning of this exercise when we were listening and then slowly doing, you know, when I talked about the doer. So that things happen in our body and then we can add the doing to it. So I just want to draw your attention to that again. I'm sure you're all familiar with this, our sense of doing things, you know. So here we are sitting on a chair or on the floor, on whatever we're all sitting on. And we normally just walk around with this sense, I am sitting on this chair. You know, that seems like a really straightforward, normal thing to say. Yeah. Well, if you look around at everybody in these screens, as much as one can see them, people are prodded up in very different ways by whatever they're sitting on just now. You know, some people leaning against the sofa, some people sitting on meditation cushions, some people, well, one can't see very much really, but some people more sort of laid back and relaxed in something, some people more upright. So apart from that, obviously we are different people. It's also the chair or whatever we're sitting on is a great part of who I am and how I sit just now. Yeah, it's not just me independent, but here I am. I sit a certain way on this particular, got to be said, not terribly comfortable office chair I'm sitting on just now. Yeah. While if I was sitting on my bed, it'd be very different. You know, I'd be in a different mood. I'd be in a different state of relaxation. Yeah. And if I lie down, again, different things. So instead of me, I suppose what I'm trying to get to is the point that rather than me being independent, yeah, this is how I sit, yeah, is no, this is how I sit, because this chair makes me sit like this, you know. At this moment, this is it, and this is, I always have this in my back, and so then I can be a bit more upright, and if I don't have that, I'm a bit more slumped. Yeah, so I am collaborating with this chair to be in the position I am. Yeah, and it seems like a very obvious thing to say, but often we forget. We think of ourselves as independent of our surroundings. But if you just pay attention, maybe over 5 minutes to just sitting, what you would notice is how many times you shift in order just to make it just a little more comfortable, you know, and how some cushion is just not right, and you've just got to just, you know, just spend a bit of energy into like, this is better, now it's good, you know, for about a minute, and then no, well, now it's good. Yeah, do you recognize this? Yeah, so we like the world to fit to us, I suppose. You know, we're happy, and we spend energy trying to get this into some sort of stability, and unfortunately we keep failing. Yeah, if we got something right for a moment, then it isn't right anymore. Yeah, after a few minutes, and we need to adjust. Everybody seems to be shifting around a lot just now, just because I mentioned it. I'm not sure whether that's real or whether I'm just imagining that. We just, if something comes our way which doesn't feel quite like, you know, we want it, we try to let it pass, or try to hold it off, or we run away. Yeah, so often our whole our attitude toward things becoming difficult in our life is, how can I get out of it? And that again activates this doer in us. You know, we become very active. Yeah, we either explain it to ourselves, or we change our furniture, or we change our friends, or we change our partner or our home. Yeah, and unfortunately for us, being interested in Buddhism, as we all seem to be, the Buddha talked about dukkha early on in his career. And that, of course, is the unsatisfactory nature of things. And he was just especially, I think he was very much engaged with that question, is that there is dukkha, and he needed to push our noses right into it, because we don't want to see it. Yeah, we just want to, I mean, you know, like we all live in what's called samsara and hope for a happy ending. I know I'm pretty, you know, working hard on this ending happily, and I know it won't. You know, it will end with sickness and decay and death, which for most of us is not a happy state to go to. Yeah. So instead of actually meeting dukkha, which is not the enemy, dukkha is not the enemy, it's just a fact of life, you know, and we all know it. You don't need me to tell you this. But instead of meeting it, we often try and just get out of its way. But what I'm suggesting is that we try to just get to know what our own personal response is in discomfort. Is it fight? Is it trying to change it? Is it collapsing into ourselves and feeling, oh, poor me? Or, these are just one of a multitude of possibilities. Yeah. And for that, I just want to give us just a little thing to do physically again, just to notice in this way, notice in a very light way, not in a way like, oh, I always do this, not grabbing hold of it and putting a stamp on ourselves, but just very kindly and playfully observing what goes on in our mind. And for that, I'd like to invite you to make yourself a little less comfortable. Yeah, so you could sort of slip down the chair a little. Yeah, please don't do anything which might do you any harm, or if your back or something is not in a good shape, then of course you need to look after yourself. But just go into a place where you just think like, yeah, no, I wouldn't really like to stay here for that long. Yeah, and just remain. Yeah, if this isn't one can do bigger things. You could also like crawl under a table at this point, or crawl into a tight corner in your room, if that is a clearer experience for yourself. Just let a corner in your room invite you in, and just be in there for a bit. It might also just be like, here I am sliding down out of the window and everybody's watching me. That is not really, it's not the most comfortable position to be in. Not knowing what anybody thinks while I slide down the chair. So I've found myself a place where I've got a really sharp chair part digging into my leg. I think I'll leave it there. That is really not that great, and I'm struggling with balance a bit. And you can close your eyes here as well and just listen in, just in a very delicate, kindly way. Listen in to this desire to change, or maybe you are thinking, what is this? Why did I come this evening? What is this woman on about? Why did I let myself get into such a stupid situation? And feel your muscles have to work a different way than you normally like them to work. Thinking maybe how long will this continue? Notice your feelings. We'll just come back to out of this discomfort make the world again how you would like it, as much as we can. Well, obviously you can try things out yourself with the kind of thing we've done. So I think to have this to have this explorative and curious attitude about what it is we meet, outside or inside. I think that I also teach clown. A lot of what I do comes from there. So the clown is always in the unknown. The world is always open, and objects are always strange and wonderful friends on stage. So it's like a small child also, an attitude of like opening to something fresh and new and being curious and exploring. I think that is, to me, that is a deeply Buddhist attitude. Even though that's what the clown told me a lot about my practice, to not think I know and to not foreclose a situation, I think is really important. And I think that counts for the Sangha, that counts for our world, our life in the world, and that counts very much for ourselves as well. Every time, well, especially maybe when we meditate, you just think, oh, what is this mind throwing up? Rather than think, oh, it's a distraction and I should be doing this. I don't know whether you do that, but sometimes people do. To really allow ourselves to get to know our life and our mind, and be fresh in it. I think that is, that is a joyful thing to do, and I hope maybe you remember some of that.